Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're excited about another football game. I'd like to review a little bit about the Air Force game. You know, it was a competitive game. It was physical. That doesn't surprise me at all, or our staff. Really pleased with the can-do attitude with our football team. You know, we had some adverse conditions, and not conditions, but during the course of the game, certainly some ebb and flows, and our guys stayed with it. I want to commend and compliment Air Force, our competitive football team, and to go to Colorado Springs and win it was certainly rewarding. It was number 7, and then also a win in our conference, win on the mountainside, and it keeps us in contention. You know, for the conference championship, albeit there's certain things that are out of our control, but the things that we're going to control is get ourselves ready to play Fresno. You know, watching a lot of tape on Fresno, they've certainly improved from last year to this year. Defensively, they're playing great defense. You've got the 2 top scoring defensive teams in the conference. You know, you've got a quarterback that's throwing the ball at 63%. You know, just going through some notes on him, McMarion's, you know, an excellent, I wouldn't even say dual threat guy. I think he has the ability to run, but he's got great pocket presence and done a really good job there. They've got a couple of receivers, Johnson and Scott, that pose a challenge. They're a great tandem there. Offensive line does a great job establishing the line of scrimmage, and they've only allowed 6 sacks. So the quarterback doesn't get hit very much. And Coach Tedford's done a great job. I know he's a Fresno alum that played quarterback there. And, you know, you can see his fingerprints on that football program. Defensively, they're strong up the middle. They've got, I think, an excellent defensive line. Inside linebackers, a great tackler, and they've got a safety that's a great tackler as well. So anytime you start on defense, you always look at starting to be strong up the middle, and they certainly are that. So it's going to be a really competitive football game. We're excited about playing. There's a lot on the line. A lot on the line for Fresno, a lot on the line for us. It's the mid part of November, and we're playing for a lot. So at this time, I'll open up any questions anybody might have.
How is the rest of the injury picture going with whether it was guys from Air Force or guys you may get back this week, and any updates there?
We think we'll have Ryan Cummings during the course of this week. I'll know a little bit more of that later on today, but I don't know when we'll be able to add him back, but it looks probable that he'll be back, and whether his timeline is such that he's going to see playing time or not, it's going to be contingent upon how he progresses, but we think we'll have him back. You know, there are a lot of guys that are banged up. That's typical of a game with Air Force. It's mostly guys that are on the defensive side, but there's nobody on the defensive side that I don't foresee being able to be full go by Saturday. However, I can tell you there's some bumps and bruises, and that's to be expected.
Were you impressed with how you guys shut down the Falcons' option offense?
Well, you know, our defensive staff, I think, really did a great job composing a game plan. I will say I thought Air Force did a great job of adjusting some schemes. I mean, it was a chess match, and those are things that stress a defensive staff out. I was an old defensive coordinator, but those are also enjoyable things because there's a chess match that goes on during the course of the game. You know, I thought Air Force did a nice job with some things, but I also thought our defensive coaches and our players adjusted well. You know, they were a high-scoring offense, and to hold them to, was it 14 points? I think it's pretty doggone commendable, and to come up with the takeaways is important too.
Your defensive line, especially your interior guys, your 2 healthy defensive, what, 20-some tackles. I mean, I know it's an option-oriented offense, and maybe there's more apt to make more plays, but, you know, Johanna and Jabari had statistically huge games. Just how big of a factor was that, and how well did they play after you looked at the film?
Well, they played well. There's some things that we certainly can do better. Their effort was there. The style of game, I think, indicates, you're right, they made more tackles than what normally is the case for defensive tackles. because they're going to feature the fullback, and then we were able to get some penetration and make some tackles for losses. Hana really is playing at a really high level. But beyond him, I thought Josiah Hall, Nilla played really well. Carl did some nice things. I thought Logan Wilson, there was plays that he made that were not plays if you just look at it on the blackboard. He did some things where he showed up because of his speed. I thought Andrew Winger played well. It was really a good defensive performance.
Coach, I mean, that's not necessarily anything new this year. The defense has had such a strong turnaround. I know you're a defensive guy. Is this sort of the kind of identity of the team that you expected, to have success with here, I guess, when you first came in?
We've always believed, and I've always believed, that a defense can maintain and create and change momentum. And for you to be really good over the long haul, you've got to be great on defense. Offense, sometimes there's weather conditions that come into play, there's tempo and timing, and so what we're striving for is to have a dominant defense. We're not there yet. I think Coach Hazelton and the defensive staff have done well. We've had a lot of returning players from last year, and the great thing is we'll have a lot of those guys back next year, and so we're going to continue to build on that.
I know you're working, when you look at Fresno, you're looking at this year. This is, but last year, I mean, this was a team that won one game and wasn't really in many games last year. Is you noticing that Coach Tedford made that big of a difference? Because it looks like a lot of the same players are there this year than last year. You notice anything?
Well, I think first of all, they got a graduate transfer quarterback, and that does have an impact. I think that can make a difference right away. McMarion's done a nice job, and they've done a nice job with him. Defensively, I think they're really playing at a high level right now. When I look at their defense, their guys are where they're supposed to be. They tackle well. They're fundamentally sound. They do pressure at times. They can be fairly multiple, and so I think that's a big difference. When you're holding people to 18 points a game, you're going to win a lot of games.
Coach, do they compare favorably with anybody you've seen this year in terms of Fresno versus somebody else who we've played?
I think, there's a lot of comparisons between their defense and our defense. When you look at them, they're solid up front. They've got an impressive defense up front. I think we're playing well up front. They tackle well. I think we tackle fairly well. And that's why I think you're looking at two of the top two defenses in the league.
Coach, with Nick Smith, I know obviously kind of got thrown in the fire a little bit back in 2015 and, just played kind of sparingly since then. What sort of growth have you seen from him since his, playing time as a freshman?
Well, it became really apparent when he first went in there. I think that, maybe some couple jitters, but those dissipated fairly quickly. And, the scoring drive, I think he really executed the offense well, took care of the football, and got us in and out of plays. And so we were really encouraged by what he had done in the game. That did not surprise us, though. He's always been a very astute player in meetings on the practice field. He's got a lot of repetition in practice, but there's a difference between game time and practice, and I think he was able to reach back into maybe his library of experience and really go out and play well.
If you don't have Josh this week, hopefully you will, but would Nick be your backup, or would Vanderwall step in there? Do you know how that may
Well, I think
shake
we'll
out?
look, we think we're going to have Josh. We'll just start out with that. And I think I'll let you know later on as the week goes along.
I guess with Nick, he did some running on Saturday. Is his mobility something you guys can use if he does have to play this week?
Well, when he played before, we utilized that. He's a big, strong guy. He's about 235 pounds. He's got a good frame. He's rugged, so we're not afraid to run him. But it's not to say he can't throw the football. I think he's really worked on his throwing motion through the last year, and we'll utilize his arm as well.
Coach, can you talk about senior class, this being your home finale and senior day Saturday? It's not a big group, I think 8 or 9 guys, and some of them came in with you. What are your thoughts on this senior class?
A really special group, and you're right, there's not a lot of them. And I think that speaks well for them, because a lot of the guys we signed when we first got here spit the bit out and left. And so these guys are really special to us, or special to me, and I'll look forward to greeting each of them individually as they get ready to play their last home game.
Coach, after the press conference at Air Force, the team, a lot of the players were asked about dealing with Josh maybe not being in it, and I felt like there was a certain
message from the players that we're going to be fine, we're going to keep doing it, and almost a little bit of frustration at the question. So what does that say about your team's ability to react and to deal with whatever is thrown at them?
This team is, there's a great resolve and focus, poise and confidence in one another. There's a can-do attitude, and that has been demonstrated, I think, in all three phases of our game. And you look at the games that we've gone through this last stretch, and we'll be tested again with Fresno. There's a belief and a confidence that no matter what the situation is, this team's going to band together and come up and win football games. And so that has not happened by chance. I think that there's a great foundation that's laid there and really good leadership within this football team. So if you picked up on some frustration by maybe a constant question over and over and over again, I think this football team, there's no doubt we appreciate Josh Allen. And anytime you have a quarterback that has played a lot, but it's not like the sky has fallen if we don't have Josh. And that was the case. We beat a good Air Force football team on the road, and we didn't have Josh in the second half.
I know you said last week you might get Sydney back to practice this week. Is that the case? You know what? What's the progress there?
The information that we were given yesterday is there's a likelihood that he'll be available this week. I forgot to mention him also. He's been gone so long. Okay, any questions online right now?
Coach, I know Robert talked about your interior defensive line, but I was curious. Jabari Jackson I think he doubled his tackles. You know, he had 10 against Air Force. What in particular have you liked about him and his progression this season as a freshman?
Well, he's a strong physical guy, and you know, he was playing along with Ravante, and you know, he's a guy that when he had more game repetition actually got better, and so we were encouraged about. You never really know how a player is going to respond when they're asked to play a lot of plays, and he's played a lot of plays and he's delivered, and so we're well pleased with that. He's a strong physical guy. He's got good weight, and you know, he's played well for us.